Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so excited to finally be at this point with the 240SX RESTOMOD build. I'm making preparations for filming the final in-depth review, but before I do that, there was a handful of things that needed to be done so the car can stay looking its best for years to come. That being said, I reached out to my friends at XPEL. I've had the fortune of working with them in the past for doing paint protection film and whatnot on some other cars, and they were willing to support the 240 build, so massive thanks. And I ended up deciding to film like a 3-part little series at the tail end of the build to highlight the 3 main protection things that I ended up doing to this car. The thing that I really like about XPEL is they offer one of the most complete automotive protection packages out there, and I wanted to highlight the 3 main ones: paint protection film, window tinting, and ceramic coating. For this video, I'm going to show you guys the process behind tinting the windows. There were a couple of templates available, but a lot of the windows ended up needing to be custom done just because of the age of the car and the lack of templates. But it's a really fascinating process overall. If you haven't seen my paint protection film install video that I just uploaded, that video link is also in the description box below. The processes between paint protection film and tinting, they're a little different, but there's a lot of similarities too. It is 100% a craft. It takes a lot of attention to detail, careful planning. It is definitely not something that you can rush. So obviously there's a whole lot of stuff to cover. Right quick, I'd also like to extend a huge thanks to Nissan. They've been fans of the 240 build since the very beginning and offered to send me a 2025 Armada Pro 4X to use as the tow vehicle for getting the 240 over to the shop. If you haven't seen the in-depth review that I've already filmed on a Pro 4X earlier this year, I've got a link down in the description box below, and it'll teach you everything you ever wanted to know about it. Truth be told, the Armada has become one of my favorite full-size SUVs. It has excellent power, the build quality is very nice, it is super comfortable, and come to find out, it tows very, very well. So big thanks to Nissan once again. It was a phenomenal trip. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Over the years, I've owned a bunch of vehicles that had aftermarket window tint, but I've never actually had it done before. When it came time to start planning out everything I wanted to do to protect the 240SX, tint was one of my biggest priorities. At the end of the day, protection shouldn't be limited to just the paint or the body panels. The cabin, especially on an older car, is just as important, maybe even more so, being that it's where you're gonna spend most of your time. People often think of tint as a cosmetic touch, and sure, it does give a sleek, finished look to the car, but it's a lot more functional than it gets credit for. It's not just about keeping people from seeing inside or adding a bit of privacy. With XPEL's Prime XR Plus in particular, you're getting a dual-layer nano-ceramic film that's specifically engineered to take on one of the biggest, most overlooked threats to your interior: heat. What really makes this stuff stand out is how effective it is at rejecting infrared heat, up to 96% of it. That's the part of sunlight that doesn't necessarily make things brighter, but absolutely makes your cabin feel like an oven in the summer. Infrared heat builds up fast when your car's parked outside, and it doesn't take long before things like seat fabrics, electronics, trim, and even adhesive-backed materials start to suffer from the constant thermal cycling. Prime XR Plus pretty much shuts that problem down at the source. It's honestly surprising how much of a difference it makes, even before you factor in the other benefits. On top of that, it blocks 99% of harmful UV rays, which are the type that damage your skin. More importantly for your car, those UV rays are notorious for fading and cracking dashboards, drying out leather, and making plastic brittle over time. On a car like mine, where replacement parts are nearly impossible to find and the interior is mostly original, keeping things from degrading in the first place is a huge win. What's impressive is how all of that performance doesn't come at the expense of daily usability. There's no haze, distortion, or ripple effect like you sometimes get with cheaper films, especially when the sun hits them just right. Visibility stays crystal clear in both direct sunlight and at night, which really matters when you're driving in low light conditions or relying on clear sightlines for safety. Also worth noting, it doesn't interfere with your phone, GPS, satellite radio, or Bluetooth signal, which is a common drawback of metallic-based tints. Older mirror tints, which some people still associate with aftermarket film, used to wreak havoc on signal reception and often didn't age well either. With XR Plus, you get all of the benefits of serious protection, but without any of the weird trade-offs. The installation process is not totally unlike the paint protection film install I talked about in my previous video. It's absolutely a craft in its own right. A good install is what separates a quality tint job from something that looks okay for 6 months before it starts bubbling or peeling. It starts with prep. Every window is thoroughly cleaned and decontaminated, usually with glass cleaner or other specialty cleaners and tools like a clay bar to make sure there's zero debris or oil that could interfere with the film's adhesion. Even a tiny speck of dust can leave a permanent bubble. After all that, the film is heat-shaped to match the exact curvature and fitment of each window. Especially on cars with complex shapes or frameless glass, this takes real expertise to get right. A skilled installer will tuck the film right to the edges so there are no light gaps, avoid trimming too close to defroster lines, and eliminate creases or contamination that might only show up weeks later after the film fully settles. When it's done properly, it should look completely OEM, like it came that way from the factory. XPEL backs XR Plus with a lifetime transferable warranty, which is saying something considering how much exposure window film deals with over its lifetime. Daily heat cycles, UV bombardment, interior humidity, all of those can degrade lesser films. So the fact that it doesn't discolor, peel, crack, or bubble under those conditions speaks volume about the material quality. XPEL also offers a few other options in their window tint lineup depending on your needs or budget. Prime XR is basically a single layer version of XR Plus. It still offers excellent protection, blocking about 85% of infrared heat and the full 99% of UV rays, but at a slightly more accessible price point. Then you have Prime CS, which isn't ceramic based. It focuses on maintaining color stability over time. That means no fading to purple, which is a big issue with older dyed films. It gives a consistent neutral tone and still offers some decent heat rejection, though not on the same level as the ceramic lines. And if you want something that leans more into a classic metallic look, Prime HP is their hybrid metal dye film. It sits between performance and appearance, but it's designed to avoid the signal interference issues that plagued older metallized films. One thing people don't often realize when choosing a film is that VLT, which stands for visible light transmission, isn't directly tied to heat rejection. For example, with XR Plus, even a 70% VLT film, which looks practically clear, still blocks over 90% of infrared heat. That means you can have all of the performance benefits without necessarily darkening your windows to limo tint levels. I went with 50% on the windshield, which lets in plenty of light, but knocks the edge off the sun's intensity. Around the rest of the car, I went with 20%, which gives the car a clean, factory-tinted look, dark enough for privacy but not so dark that visibility becomes a problem at night. What really surprised me was how much clarity the film maintains. A lot of people assume darker film equals murky views or poor performance in low light, and for some extreme tints, yeah, that might be the case, but that's not the case here. It's one of those details you stop noticing after a few drives, until you get in a car without it and suddenly everything feels a whole lot hotter and more exposed. As soon as I brought this car in the sun afterwards, I could feel the difference. It's one of those upgrades that improves your driving experience subtly but consistently. Even if you don't think about it every time you get behind the wheel, you're still benefiting from it. What really sold me on going the ceramic route aside from the performance is how well it integrates with the broader protection strategy I wanted to have done. Think of it this way. Paint protection film guards against chips and scratches. Ceramic coating helps with gloss and ease of maintenance. And window tint shields the interior from heat and UV degradation. It's a multi-layered approach that'll help preserve the car over the long haul. Especially on a car like the 240 where so much work has gone into it, that kind of layered defense really matters. The interior on this car isn't just old, it's also rare being blue, as that color option was only offered in 1989 and 1990. And once a piece like the dash starts to crack, you're stuck either hunting down scarce parts or trying to repair something that'll never look quite right again. Because my car had limited pre-cut templates available, the install required a lot more finesse. XPEL does have a huge database of vehicle-specific patterns for newer cars, but older or modified builds often need full custom work. That means measuring, cutting, and fitting by hand. It's the kind of thing that takes real skill, and watching it come together gave me a lot of respect for the craft behind a good install. When it's done right, you don't even notice the film, it just becomes part of the car. The only time you think about it is when your car stays cool in the sun, when you don't have to wrestle with a burning hot steering wheel, or when your interior still looks fresh years down the line. In the end, Prime XR Plus isn't just a cosmetic mod. It's a thoughtful, functional upgrade that protects your car in ways you might not appreciate until you live with it. It's one of those rare upgrades that works behind the scenes, quietly doing its job day after day. And when you factor in the performance, longevity, and clarity, it becomes less about the money spent and more about the value you get every time you drive your car and don't have to worry about what the sun is doing to it. That peace of mind, that sense that you're preserving something that matters, is honestly what makes it worth it. Well everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like down below because it really helps the videos a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so and make sure those notifications are turned on. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.